Sourav Dutta, ED and Head IT IDBI Bank. Dr. Sourav Dutta is an Executive Director of IT at IDBI Bank Limited with over 32 years of experience in the IT domain. He's coming on stage. Let us welcome him on stage to talk about supercharge your data center infrastructure, DCIM. All right, a very warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you.
Well, let me start. Good morning, all of you, and happy to be here and sharing some thoughts with you. So, I represent the BFSI sector at the moment and one of the large banks in India. From a data center perspective, at least at the BFSI domain, people are, the earlier mindset was that they will have the captive data centers, right? And over a period of time, that has changed. And because of various reasons, of course. One is that from a data center perspective, operations, if it is given to somebody who's more experienced or more specialized, so as to speak, in this area would make more sense, right? And from a second, another point would be that the data center providers now are more not only giving the space, the services, but also the infrastructure, but also the services. So managed services also becomes one of the key factors to drive this thing. So let me quickly jump into some of my thoughts that I want to share with you today. This is just a brief thing that I wanted to discuss. So what's the most important thing without which the data center would be useless to people? What's that one thing which would be without which the data center would make everything, I mean, it will not work for anybody? What's that one thing? Or it will bring down the whole data center down. Data is working, right? Data centers could be up and running, but without which it makes it useless. Connectivity, okay? So network. Without network, it's absolutely useless. If you have a data center up and running 100% available, if you don't have network, nothing works, right? It has to come to you because data center is sitting somewhere else, it's remote, right? It's like a distance or a cloud to you, but it's there somewhere and you need to connect to it. All the people or the customers need to connect to it. So that's the most important thing, right? So without connectivity, you're dead. In fact, right now, most of the people in the room having a particular service provider, they're not getting any signal. So it's without it, it's you're dead, right? So that's one of the most important things. So just taking you back briefly into the history. Any idea when the internet came to India? Okay, so it came way back in late 70s, 1970s, but it was only restricted to some government, military, and some of the research institutes, for example, and also the oil network, right? But in early 80s and late 80s, you have these about 8 departments, government departments came into being, right? So you have basically under the government of that was what Department of Electronics. You had this UNDP funding from the United Nations, and along with Government of India, we had about 8 institutions that started the ERNET, right? So the ERNET was started way back in 1986. Then you had the first, of course, this was a milestone, the first lease line 9.6 kb. That was a huge amount at that point in time, way back in 1991. All right. The first commercial launch which happened was in 15 August 1995, when BSNL, who was the monopoly service provider at that point in time, they started the internet for commercial use. It was dial-up connectivity for the public, for the retail users, and you had these connectivities to the commercial users, right? You had modems and the huge users of modems coming in that point in time. And of course, which is lesser known is that the father of internet in India was Mr. 𝗍𝗂𝗃𝗃. His name is not referred. So I take this forum as an opportunity to honor him and remember him. He's no more with us, but he was the chairman and MD of BSNL, and he was the person who brought internet to India. Okay. So then these are some of the things that, just in brief in history, that you had today, 1996. Again, and of course, we started the first data center in India. Nobody had a clue of what a data center was. So I was one of the people associated with that started the first data center in India, in 𝗏𝘂𝗍𝗂, way back in 1999. And after that, we had a lot of data centers coming up across the world. I was part of the data center journey for long. Of course, we had a major hacking incident in one of the park servers, and of course, some of the servers in BSNL in 1999, 2000. And we started, in fact, I started the cybercrime cell in Mumbai in 2000. So that was also started first time in India in 2000. All right, so some of that in history. So let's look at the evolution of the data center design. Okay, so data centers, so generation 1, again co-location, generation 2, density, containment, generation 3. So you see that the PUE is going down, right? That's the measure, that's the efficiency measure of a data center. That's what how we define it. So you see from co-location to hyperdensity, to containment, to modelization, to software defined. So that's how the journey is. With virtualization coming in, we have more of software-defined data centers coming up, right? So that's the way forward. So here are some of the examples of data centers across the world, right? So some of the advantage in the upper latitudes of the cooler climes is that you don't have to spend much on the cooling piece. That's very important for any data center. The heat is very important, right? And I don't know whether you're aware of not I don't want to, but that's a start basically. Intel 86, right? So if the Intel 86, the design of that microprocessor was done way back in late 70s, right? So 8086, and then we had their friend AMD coming in. They were actually sharing their chip design, and they were making 8086 and 8285 and 8286. And from 186, 386 onwards, Intel said no, we're not going to share the design with you. You go your way, we go our way. Then Intel, but they kept the 8086 architecture same. The problem with 8086 architecture is that it's not optimized. It's a CISC-based architecture. If you know microprocessors, it's called CISC. The complex instruction set computers, and you have the RISC, the reduced instruction set computers. Okay. So the CISC computers, all the mobile devices are by the way RISC. Okay. There's no CISC on your mobile device. All your mobile devices are RISC computers. It's computer. Mobile device is computer. So the CISC is basically the problem is that you have one instruction which can do multiple things and then you get the result. That's the main basic background of a CISC. In RISC is that if you have one instruction, it will give you one output, straight away, one cycle, one clock cycle, it will give you one instruction, the output. But the problem with the CISC is that if there is a branch, for example, if then else statement, if there's a branch, the entire prefect cycle of there's a microcode inside a microprocessor, the prefect cycle of the microprocessor gets data. So how the microprocessor computes is that it gets the instruction, it gets the data, processes, and then output. This is the von Neumann architecture, right? It's the same architecture. So you have the instruction set, instruction, the data, it comes along with, and you can't differentiate what is data, what is instruction. So there is a set, I mean the first 2 or 3 bytes will be the instruction, and then followed by the data, and so on. So that is how it is evolved. But the problem with the Intel chipsets is that it gets heated up very much. Heat is a huge problem, and the optimization of the set. But it is a commodity hardware, so people are using it in there, it will be there, right? But again, if you look at the RISC processors, they have been there for some time, but again, it dwindled down with Sun getting absorbed within Oracle, right? And then the whole RISC chain got deleted. There was always a competition between the RISC processing industry. So you had IBM, the Power series, and then P series. Then you had Sun with the Ultra Spark microprocessors, right? That went away. Then you had PA RISC from HP, that also went away. Then you had the separate companies. Many companies came, but nothing survived, right? Currently, we have only IBM with the P series of processors, right? But which are very efficient and being used for a large footprint in the banks. It's being used quite heavily in the banks. Now, people complain that they're running the operating system is AI, but it's again Unix. There's no difference between that. But people script that the skill set is not available for what reasons, but that's how it is. So what I was trying to say is that the heat is one of the main problems in a data center, and cooling requires a lot of energy. So that is something which these people have solved in the US, in the European data centers. What is that? They use the cold climates to pump the air in without using any air conditioners, right? So those things happen. So you can see the large fans over the top. So they pull in the cool air and then push it out. So those are the things. Then you have something the Microsoft did, which is known as the underwater data center for cooling purposes, right? So they have some of these innovative stuff coming in. Then you have in Denver in US, and then a lot of stuff in the mountains. People are thinking that they can do it in Ladakh, India, right? Some data centers might come up there because of the cool climates. Alright, so this is another container data center that I did sometime over 10 or 12 years back in South America. This is a container data center. The full data center is the preloaded, prefab, just different. Okay, so quickly coming to the modular. This is how the data center monitoring happens. So everybody knows about it, and I'm sure our colleagues from the data centers will be putting more light on it. Just wanted to just give a brief idea on how the whole thing works. The 𝗘𝗱𝗏 is basically the data center information management systems, right? And these help in optimizing, optimize. Like I was saying before that manpower, colleague before also said, the manpower skill set is one of the major issues, right? And then you use tools, automation to overcome some of these issues, but ultimately you still require human intelligence some point in time to figure out something which is not done by the machines, right? So basically, these are basically management of the data center optimization. You have measurement sensors, technologies, analytics, which which gives you some throws out output because of the huge data or events that generated. Then you do some planning, and then how you manage the plan by the actionable solutions, right? So this is the DCIM maturity model, which has evolved over a period of time. Level 1 is basic, everybody has that, right? Security, basic monitoring, supply chain equipment, health and safety, so basic stuff, right? Then you have level 2, which is reactive. Then you have some software, basic software installed to monitor the environment and improve the power, right? And also adjust cooling on demand. That is level 2. Level 3 is proactive, where you have the data equipment, characteristics, location, operational statistics completely tracked, energy, environmental data used to reduce the risks and the waste, right? And then you go up level, which is optimizing even further. And then you have something known as the self-optimizing or autonomous systems, in which it takes controls itself. Like so you have you see it more on the source side, right? The security operations and orchestration, where the inputs come from various fields, and the technology takes action. Which rules to apply in the firewall, which one to block, which one not to block, right? So those kind of things happen in an autonomic system inside a data center, right? Which AC to switch on, which HVAC or PAC, depends on which data center you're using. So which one to switch on, which one to switch off, what energy to give at which level. So those, everything is completely automated, right? That is level 5. So you see the maturities, so most of the data centers are at like 4, right? So they're not at, so top level data centers would be at level 5. But most of them are definitely at the level 3. Right now, India data centers are at level 3. So some of the, these are some of the things in a 𝗘𝗱𝗏 piece, which everybody would be doing it, right? So you have multi-vendor, so data center consists of a multi-vendor solution. You have solutions from everywhere, you have building management solutions, fire solutions, input coming in. So one of the main areas of concern is the power, the charge, right? So we want to see the data centers of the future. Like people were mentioning, before me also mentioned the war going on and all of that. So war is definitely good for economy. People might have a different view, but war definitely helps economy, right? So that's the intent. And with war coming in, it gives you more opportunity to have more innovations. So one of these would be definitely on the power side. So how do you make data center which is completely self-sufficient in terms of power? You need a huge power, but if you have green power coming in, dedicated green power coming in, the green power has also various definitions, right? So green power coming in into a data center would be a game changer. That's one. Secondly, India recently initiated the green hydrogen initiative, right? I don't know whether you're aware of that. The green hydrogen is something which will again, so we have a unique advantage in India that we leapfrog technologies. So So while the US was still on 8086, 286, we were on Pentium. Right? So that's a huge advantage in India that we do. Right? Look at the vehicles, the SUVs in India. We are far advanced in the SUVs if you go and have a rented drive in US or Europe. They're absolutely ridiculous SUVs you'll get. But look at the SUVs in India. So we have leapfrogged the technology. Even the basic one, the vehicles have got huge amount of ADAS. Right? So the automated driver assisted systems, right? So huge amount of ADAS is there in these systems now at a very lower cost. Same thing will go for the data centers also as things would evolve. So that is one of the areas that would help the data centers also to evolve. So the power is one of the critical factors, and green energy, with green hydrogen coming in. So green hydrogen is something that we use the green resources to break the basic stuff and make it into hydrogen, right? So you have grey hydrogen, black hydrogen, and blue hydrogen. The different types of hydrogen also there. The basic business of a DKM is basically this is the basic business, right? The business benefit is that you have advanced level of data center maturity and control over the systems and devices. And the typical return on investment is less than 12 months. That's amazing, right? The amount of automation, amount of advanced systems that you put in would give you the value, because you are reducing the number of the FTEs, the full-time engineers available to manage systems, right? As you said before, it's there, of course, on the table that skill set is scarce. Even if you have so many of people coming out, but the actual person who can do that job is very less. So in IT, we have something known as 199. 1% of the person doing 99% of the work. So that is how it is in IT. Okay. So let's just skip to the current trends of BFSI. This is something which is I was just trying to emphasize on some of the issues which will be part of the data center also. So just touch one of that is the software-defined data center, right? So that is the thing of which is of interest in this summit. Is that this is something that is happening. We're seeing it happening. We already have virtualization in terms of compute. So you have software-defined compute, which is the virtualization is already there. Then you have software-defined storage. Then you have software-defined networks, and then you have software-defined data centers. Right? So these are the 3-4 pillars on how it evolves. So all of these sit on the base, and then you have the software-defined data center sitting on top of that. So from a banks or the BFSI sector perspective, is that this is something that we would like to see. Is that we have software-defined data centers coming in, which will give us more benefit, more advantage, more flexibility, higher uptimes, right? So this is what something that you have to look at into it. Again, I've talked about risk servers. So risk is something which is going to come in. We have a new consortium also called 𝗏𝗏. I don't know whether you're aware of that. 𝗏𝗏 is something open consortium which is trying to make risk processors available for a commodity use, just like Intel. So that's a big challenge to Intel and the commodity processors. And of course, you have collaboration all the events coming in on an AI-ML technique, on an optimization technique, so that would help, right? This point I want to highlight is the managed data center service provider. That is something of real importance here. The data centers service providers need to evolve also, and they need to. My message would be that they should think of something by which they can give more service. It's not a colo, right? Colo is no-brainer. It makes good sense for the bank. Instead of we having a captive data center, which is a huge amount of money for the bank, we put it on a colo, right? A huge advantage for the bank in terms of the serviceability, availability, breaking the head. But again, it's a kind of a rent model where you put in your equipment. The advantage is that it gives you huge depreciation benefit. The advantage of the bank or the industry is a depth benefit from a tax perspective, right? CapEx versus OpEx. Again, you have to weigh out the depth thing. The depth thing doesn't work in any other country. It works in India. That's amazing. The depreciation for the hardware is amazing. Okay, that gives a huge revenue benefit. That is something that you have to think about, and of course, it creates headache for the industry or the banks in terms of the refresh cycle is on you. The hardware refresh cycle is on you. That's a problem. But it's offset by the benefit you get from the debt. Something that the message to the data center providers is that you have to think of some kind of a model in which this kind of refresh problem is taken out from the industry. The refresh cycle also is absorbed within your thing. So that is something, if that innovation is done, then that will make a huge sense or huge benefit to the industry, and the industry can move forward that way, offloading everything to the data center service provider. That would be great help. And of course, I spoke about the green data centers and energy secure data centers, in which the energy is, even there is a war or something in which there is outage, the power generation units go down, but you still have units in energy in terms of the green energy, in terms of storage energy. You can have your own hydrogen power station inside your data center. So that is something that we look forward in the future. So this is a slide just for the on the risk usage. It's going high, and on 2026 we're still seeing a pretty high growth, right? So basically, it's an annual market given by IDC. I spoke a lot about the green data centers, and we have a lot of opportunities here for the data center providers. They have to also evolve. They have some time, but we need to go forward on this. AI/ML, of course, will be definitely helping you, but again, a bit of caution. If you have a hammer, everything is not a nail, okay? So everything is, you have an AI-ism kind of thing, like autism, AI-ism, right? So everything is not AI. So you have to apply your brain where to put in, what not to put in. Again, a bit of caution. Alright, so these are things that you need to watch out for from a tech or a bank perspective, is that avoid duplications. Look at any bank, there are n number of applications were duplicated across the place, right? Then you have unnecessary functionalities which could have been added, addressed elsewhere. Again, it's an industry problem, because the problem in the banks, at least in India, is that they don't have a unified vision, a unified architecture. Any vendor comes in, suddenly they look, okay, without thinking, everything is in silos. That is that comes to spaghetti architecture, and it is very complex to manage. The users forum, the regulator is also behind us to get this thing out of the way. So alright, so with that, I'll leave you. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I'm around, so we can talk. Thank you.